So Giannis was ducking that Jimmy Butler, Al Horford smoke, huh? His two kryptonites. Now, Giannis was a late game scratch with knee soreness, and all of a sudden it kind of becomes a trap game. We've seen this in the past, in particular with Steph Curry, where he gets up, he looks forward to matching up against the other superstars in the league, and from the jump, Steph just looked kind of grumpy. He was kind of off balance and just, he just looked kind of raggedy out there. Not to sound blasphemous, but he just didn't have his normal energy and aura. And maybe, who knows what's going on. This is what happens when you age, when you inch towards 40, you have more mornings that you wake up and you just don't feel as good. I'm not saying all the time, like Steph is an elite athlete in great shape, but I'm just saying there's more of those days where you're like, I don't really feel good today, physically. I'm not up for the task, right? And then he matches up with Ryan Rollins, 23 years old, the 44th pick in the 22 draft. And if the name sounds familiar, well, it's because the Warriors, they traded for him in that draft. You know how many second-round draft picks we trade for, right? And so we picked him up in 22 out of Toledo. And, you looked at the tape, a little bit of summer league. He was an intriguing athlete, but a ways away, right? And he never really got an opportunity up with the big squad. And he ends up going in the Chris Paul, Jordan Poole trade to Washington. Wizards end up waiving him because I guess he stole some shampoo at Target. It's a vicious cycle, y'all. I don't, some people just can't help themselves. But he's found his way back into the league because clearly he's talented. Give me a minute today to tell you about today's sponsor, Fume. It's a flavored air device designed to help people move away from vaping. And it's very important for y'all to understand what this product is. There's no nicotine, there's no vaping, just flavor. It comes with a fidgeter on the front, and then of course the oral fixation of smoking. And so, it's been a problem that people don't want to talk about because it's so accessible and it's something that you can hide. And this is such a better alternative with none of the downsides. Now, they sent me a journey pack with a ton of flavors, a ton of options. The product is super high quality. And what's my channel called? Athletic Alchemy. Alchemizing your energy. And this is a great way to transfer one habit into another, again, without the downsides, a ton of flavor. Over 500,000 people have already added Fume to their daily routine. And I totally get why. It's simple, it's satisfying, and it doesn't come with any of the downsides of vaping or smoking. And right now, if you order the Journey Pack using the code Athletic Alchemy, you'll get a free Fume topper. So if you've been thinking about changing your habits, this is the perfect step. Go to tryfume.com/alchemy or scan the QR code on the screen to grab yours today. And the Bucks get him on a two-way contract. Kevin Porter Jr. out to start the year. And this is how it happens sometimes, right? Much more in the NFL than in the NBA. Ryan Rollins isn't giving up that starting point guard spot, right? Like, wouldn't it be ironic if the reason the Bucks don't end up trading Giannis is because of Ryan Rollins? Not ironic, but just like, I think it was a Bob Myers pick. Dunleavy might have scouted him, though. And back to Steph, where clearly from the jump you could tell he just wasn't in a good mood. Didn't look like he wanted to play tonight. Now you have young Ryan Rollins, who probably convinced himself this was some sort of revenge game. The team that drafted him and didn't give him the opportunity. Steph cold-shouldered him in the locker room. No, I don't know. These guys can, whatever it takes to motivate you. But the other part of this is Milwaukee is hanging their hat on defense. I want to say that, and I don't want to discredit them, because to me, that was the best defense we've faced so far this year. Their rotations, their size, their athleticism, I imagine they're going to be a top 5 defense in the league moving forward. But Ryan Rollins is just in Steph's shit from the start. Pause. And AJ Green. They did a really good job of staying connected to Steph, and you didn't see him exploit the back door as many times. See, this is what happens when you talk basketball. It sounds crazy, right? But he didn't go back door and back cut them as much, I think, because of their size on the back end with Miles Turner, and Portis, Kuzma. They're a bigger lineup, right? But I think the other element of this is Ryan Rollins was cooking. He had 9 first quarter points. You know who he kind of reminds me of is Sweet Lou Will. 2 Girls Like I'm Lou Will, where it's that big hang dribble left, and it's either I'm going to the cup or I'm pulling up into a jump shot. It's one of those things where it's like, he's going left, but you can't seem to stop it. Now, I don't know how much of the league knows that yet, right? I think that once a scouting report is actually fully developed, there's more attention to Ryan Rollins in the scouting reports, as there's gonna be, right? You got to take away the left. He only goes left, it seems like, right? Or he's going to pull up. And the Warriors never figured that out tonight. But Rollins is cooking, and he's getting anywhere he wants on the floor. And I think that in turn made Steph, by the way, on the other end, being super physical with Steph, being chippy with him. Even when between the whistles, when it's like side out, if you watch him, he's on his body, he's bumping him, trying to punk Steph. And so Steph, I think, wanted to get his get back offensively, all while probably not feeling the greatest today. And so it wasn't like a shot. Look, they were blitzing Steph. They weren't giving him any room off the ball screens, but to me, it looked like Steph wasn't as willing to quickly move it because he wanted to match those points of Rollins. It got a little one-on-one-ish, even though they weren't matched up on each other on both sides of the ball. And so that led to, a rough night for Steph. Again, off balance, but you got to credit their defense. It was really good. And then you look at the Jimmy Butler matchup, who Jimmy still finds a way to score 20, but it wasn't a matchup where you could just feed him on that block and let him go to work because there was Portis, Kuzma, Turner. They had the size where he couldn't just play bully ball, right? And you look at the others, Pods was just out of control. Pods was flat out of control. It's a homecoming for him. He's coming off 2 games, and I didn't like it. I understood it. He wanted to show out in front of the Milwaukee crowd, but he was out of control tonight. And then you look at the center spot, QP and Al both cold from outside. We didn't shoot the 3 ball well. That, is the great equalizer. Kuminga was doing his thing. I thought Kuminga was our chance to somehow steal this game. And it felt like it shouldn't have been as close as it was, honestly. We were getting completely outplayed. But here's the saving grace to me. Look, this is the season. You're going to have L's, especially with all these games condensed so early here. Did you see Kuminga get rolled up on? Now, I was listening to the Milwaukee telecast because Amazon Prime feeds me that. And frankly, I'm having a nice break from Fitz and Buki. But so they didn't really make mention of it, but he got rolled up on by Taurean Prince. It didn't look great. We know his ankles aren't the most flexible. And, I don't know if that didn't help. He went to the bench, but that's to me, okay, our first maybe shitty performance. No, that's not true. We had a bad game in Portland, right? Our second bad game of the year against a Milwaukee team that looks much better than anticipated. So, okay, fine. Steph Webb didn't have it. No one had it, really. That Kuminga seems to be all right. Because when I rewound it and looked at Taurean Prince falling, like that one, we know his history with the ankles. Fingers crossed. You never know what the report will be. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was out for Indiana. But it didn't look too serious. He went back in and played. But he lost his rhythm and maybe some of his aggression. And I thought he might have been the saving grace to trying to steal this one. And we hung around. But I know you felt just like I felt sitting on your couch. Like, this doesn't feel like we should win this game, right? Like it didn't even feel like it should have been that close. And eventually we let our hand off the wheel there as young Ryan Rollins with the 30-point career high, and yeah, man, again, the offense, I don't like the way he can shoot. It may just be one of those things where it's like, he's going left. You can't stop it because he has such a long and quick first step and then he can shoot. But I don't know if the offense is going to be, especially with Giannis, dominating the ball. But for him to be a two-way player, Milwaukee's due some luck. They're due some luck. And for those of you in the comments that are like, I can't believe it was part of don't try to use revisionist history now and add Ryan Rollins to how upset you are about the Chris Paul Jordan Poole trade. Because in the moment, it was a throw-in, right? So don't act like it wasn't now. And by the way, have you seen your boy Jordan Poole already benched in New Orleans? So I don't want to hear about that. But Rollins, man, he looks like a legit, he ain't giving up that spot, right? What I will say, the other thing that I did like down the stretch, I was watching the game with my daughter, and I'm like, yo, he's kind of punking Steph. Like, just, again, on inbounds plays, head in his, just bothering him and touching him the whole game, just unnecessarily. And you could tell Steph wasn't in the mood for it. And down the stretch there, he was all over him. And so Draymond is like, okay, bet. Boom, checks him across the lane on a cut. Next possession, Kuminga cracks him. It's like, damn straight. They could sense it. They could see what he was doing, and he was being extra with Steph. And it was like, no, you ain't going to do that to him. And so I like that they stood on that. And listen, circle Milwaukee visiting Chase Center. I don't know when it is. It might be after the All-Star break. You know, they only play twice. But if you're looking to get tickets to a Warriors game and you only choose one, I would consider the Milwaukee Ryan Rollins Steph Curry matchup when it comes back around to San Francisco, because Steph will have this matchup circled. Young fella got him tonight in a great team effort. And the Bucks, hey, they especially in this weak East, I don't think that this loss is going to age poorly, but a loss is a loss at this point, right? We head on to Indiana Saturday night, where they're the most injured team in the league. Obviously, no Tyrese Halliburton, right? Nembhard has a shoulder. Obi Toppin is out. Benedict Mathurin is out. They went and signed Mac McClung off the streets, the dunk champ. And you know how they did that? They waived your boy James Wiseman. Someone had asked me about Wiseman, and I guess I'll say it now instead of this next video. He's got to go find somewhere to play in the G League. Because there's no value for him to sit on the end of someone's bench and not get any experience. He's got to go play 25, 30 minutes a night in the G League. But I'm rooting for him, because if he does somehow end up making it, it will show that a kid fell in love with basketball. I don't necessarily think he was in love with it, but he fell in love with it and the pockets that basketball provides, right? But this Indiana team, Mac McClung, Siakam, they're down to some of their third guys. Jarris Wallace all of a sudden has an ultra green light. But here's the thing. They have a style. They have an identity with Rick Carlisle. It's pick up 94 feet and it's shoot the three. And if they are making the three, it's a problem. It doesn't matter who they're rolling out. And so you hope that the Warriors respond. Steph's in a better mood, and you do what you do. But Indiana is never an easy game. I will have a full breakdown of this one tomorrow on my Patreon. We'll do the autopsy. I think there's going to be a lot to look at, because this was a bad one, and where we were weak, what was wrong, what can be changed. So listen, you don't want to have too many losses, but sometimes I enjoy ones like this where it's like, okay, it shows where we are weak and what needs to be worked on. So you can look for that breakdown in the morning. The link will be in the description. And as always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.